Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Peace be with you. Today, my topic is Corban. My brothers and sisters, Corban is a tradition of the Pharisees, the Mosaic law, how one has to dedicate to God. It can be properties, it can be land, it can be wealth, anything could be dedicated to God and it belongs to the temple. We'll see how this Mosaic law was used by some of the Pharisees even in dishonoring their own parents, by not taking care of them, by not looking after them. And that's no different even now in our present times. There are some children who do not take care of their parents, saying that, no, I do God's work, therefore I cannot provide anything for you. I don't have anything. My brothers and sisters, let's see from scriptures how Jesus addresses this situation. Now, in Mark chapter 7, verse 11, devoted to God as a gift, a sacred treasury. Whenever the Pharisees or the person supposedly to be obedient to the Mosaic law, they would dedicate something to God and say, no, I have given to the temple treasury. Therefore, I cannot contribute anything to my parents, the aged parents. But when we see the 10 commandments, the 5th commandment, honor your father and mother. And Jesus catches this one, this Pharisees, the elders who are abusing the Mosaic law. How the moral defilement and the physical defilement get connected. Morally, they are not able to honor their parents, and also their gifts, whatever they are dedicating, that is not accepted. So either ways it is a defilement. Mark chapter 7 verse 5, we find the same ritualistic tradition of Corban. Corban is the word in Aramaic language which means dedicated to God. Now, when you look at Exodus chapter 20 verse 12, we find that the 5th commandment, honor your father and mother. So which is greater, the Corban or the 5th commandment? For me, I would say the 5th commandment. Honor your father and mother. And follow the other commandments as well. What Jesus gave us, 2 commandments. Love your Father God with all your heart, mind and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And here when I see a neighbor, it can be my father, it can be my mother, it can be my spouse, it can be my children, it can be my siblings, it can be my actual neighbor, it can be my friends, it can be in the community, it can be anyone. But this Corban, it exempts a person from his responsibility to the parents. That's how the Pharisees understood. The Pharisees took a legitimate Corban offering and used it as an illegitimate and devious ways to defraud the parents. And we find even that today, how all the children who have been taken care so well by their parents do not take care of their parents. My brothers and sisters, we are all in the same situation like those Pharisees, calling it Corban. Oh, I am doing all good things. I'm trying to help my family. I'm trying to do this, that. But we are not taking care of our parents. My brothers and sisters, if your parents are with you, you are most lucky ones. The aged parents, you are blessed. Take care of them, whatever way you can. At least be with them in person, speaking good words, consoling them, comforting them, and caring for them. Because that's how you will meet the fifth commandment. Obey the fifth commandment. Honor your father and mother. If your father and mother have passed away, pray for them in the Holy Mass. Pray for their souls to rest in peace. You never know, they are spending time in purgatory. Our prayers can release them from purgatory to eternity, to heaven. It is our duty to pray for our parents. If we do not pray, then who will pray for them? My brothers and sisters, honoring our father and mother, whether dead or alive, is very important. If they are alive, it's such a blessing. Love them. Give them that confidence that you are with them. But if they are dead, pray for them in the Holy Mass. Offer their souls to rest in peace. Pray the rosary for them. Remember them in your prayers. Now in Leviticus chapter 27 verses 16 to 24, consecrated to God, anything over this which the word was once pronounced was irrevocably dedicated to the temple. Land, however, so dedicated may be redeemed before the year of Jubilee. So Moses had given very strict outlines for all the day-to-day affairs of the Israelites' life. So here we find that if a land is dedicated, they may be redeemed during the Jubilee year. So every 7th year is a Jubilee year, so they could redeem it. The Pharisees pronounced Corban over their goods, thus reserving them to their own selfish use. So what these Pharisees would do, when they say it's dedicated to God, they won't use it, but then without the knowledge they would use it for some purpose. So a person might thus exempt himself from any convenient obligation under the plea of Corban. So they had a very good term, Corban, and then they used to do all sorts of illegal, illegitimate, devious stuff. And we find that even now in our present day lives, how we want to avoid certain things. We commit some kind of tricks in our transactions and say, oh, that person, he is not capable to understand. It is his problem. I can do this. I can keep this as a secret and trick him. So it's my intelligence. It's my capacity. And that way we see the other person. We try to cheat him or cheat her by giving false promises, false pretext. Lust for flesh, lust for wealth, greed for money, greed for position, greed for possessions. We try to cheat. Yes, my brothers and sisters, we are frail and weak beings. We cannot do in our own capacities. But if we ask God, He will give us, He will provide us all that strength, all that courage, all that confidence to speak the truth and to really dedicate to the temple as well as to our fellow human beings. Now Mark chapter 7 explores Jesus' relationships with both Jews and Gentiles. So Jesus speaks with the Pharisees and the scribes and then with his disciples about the defilement and then heals the two Gentiles. So Jesus, during his time, he came to fulfill the law. He did not come to abolish the law. And Jesus made those 10 commandments and all those 667 laws written for the Israelites by Moses. Jesus came to fulfill every one of them. And that's why he gave those 2 commandments. If anyone wants to follow the commandments, if they follow these two commandments, loving God with all his heart, soul, and mind, and loving his fellow human beings, then he would meet all the requirements of the commandments, all those laws, Corban, everything included. So Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. That is the image, that is the truth he's trying to proclaim to the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, the elders, the temple authorities, to everybody around that time. But people were so blind, seeing they could not perceive, hearing they could not listen. By even experiencing the miracles happening in front of their eyes, they did not have a change of heart. Jesus is trying his best, and that is the reason we find that Jesus weeping for the second time. First time Jesus wept at Bethany when he heard that Lazarus was dead. And Lazarus was buried. After 3 days he goes there, and Martha and Mary, they come and tell him that their brother is dead and was buried 3 days, and if Jesus was around, he wouldn't have died. So at that moment, Jesus mourns with Martha and Mary, and he wept. And the second time he weeps is when he enters Jerusalem. Even after doing all those miracles, even after showing them what those two, making their commandments so simple to 2 commandments, they are still not able to understand. After seeing all those miracles, the blind seeing, the dead rising to life, the crippled walking, the fever living people, his word was just enough to calm the sea. But people still had doubts, and Jesus wept for his creatures. He was still so stone-hearted. Isaiah chapter 29 verse 13. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to the traditions of men. So here we find Isaiah telling the Israelites that you are not following God's commandments even in the Old Testament times. You think you are giving all your tithing, etc., but you are not really loving your fellow human beings. What is required is your love. And that's what Jesus, when he came, he showed everyone how important is love, because God is love. There is no division, there is no partiality for God in loving his creatures, whether Jewish or Gentiles or anybody. In the Old Testament we see that the Jewish had the chosen God. God has chosen the Jewish people as his own, whereas Gentiles never had God. They had all those pagan gods. But when Jesus came, he made them realize. He healed the Gentiles. He healed the Syrophoenician women. He opened the eyes of the Samaritan women. He told the Samaritan women, and the Samaritan women replied that they worship in Mount Gerizim and the Jews worship in the temple. Jesus told the truth to her. Henceforth you will be worshipping only in spirit and in truth. And that's what we are doing. Even if all the things get closed, if all the people, if we are put to the hardest of persecution, we can still worship our God in spirit and in truth. We cannot say like Corban, oh, because there is no church, we can't go and pray, we can't go and worship God. It is just like saying Corban, because I have dedicated to the temple, I cannot give it to my parents. But even if there is no church, no holy masses during this pandemic time, we can still worship God in spirit and in truth. And that's what Jesus has taught us. Jesus further tells us, nothing outside can make man unclean. Rather, what comes from inside of our heart make the person unclean. So my brothers and sisters, whatever we eat, it doesn't make us unclean. It doesn't defile us. Rather, the secret thoughts, the lust of flesh, the greedy attitude, the jealous thoughts, the anger, the immoral thoughts, the pornographic, the sexual immorality, the drunkenness, the debauchery, the psychotropic drugs, whatever the thoughts to harm that person, the spitefulness, all those things make a person evil. If you do everything good outside and inside of our heart, if it is full of all this greed, lust, then it is no use. It is just like Corban. The Pharisees, what they are saying, oh, I dedicated to the temple. For example, if we earn money by gambling and then give that money to the church and then we continue gambling, then it is like Corban. That money is not required in the church. If we do run abortion clinic and if we generate money and if that money is given to the church, it is not required. That money is same like Corban. My brothers and sisters, we need to realize that loving God with all our heart, mind and soul, and loving our fellow human beings like ourselves. When we meditate and contemplate on this commandment of Lord Jesus, then we realize that how we can overcome something like Corban, what the Pharisees had during their time, how they were devising the devious ways, how we in our own times have those devious ways in avoiding to love God and our fellow human beings. Though outwardly, externally, we might behave and act that we are loving our fellow human beings, but inwardly we are not. My brothers and sisters, today Jesus tells us that let us not be like Pharisees and the people who did Corban. We believe in love and we seek the love of our God, Jesus Christ, and love our fellow human beings in the same love, so that we all will be one in Jesus Christ. May His grace be upon all of us. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. Peace be with you. Please send in your comments if you like the video, and also subscribe to my video if you want all those 300+ videos. Bye now.